I've got a pretty clear cut top 5. It is a little difficult for me in the just getting out a picking out a 5 spot, right? Because there are 2 games that come to mind. And like I said, I've been to 75 of these things, but there are only so few that I think are really deserving of it. My honorable mention is 2013 South Carolina, the Marquez North catch game. Michael Pilardi kicked the field goal. That was like the bet. That was the first good Tennessee game that I saw in person.
And it's funny you bring that one up too, because we are talking before the show, and I was like, I completely forgot about that game. I listed off like 2 other South Carolina games, I think, before you were like, no, it's the 2013 one. And I'm like, I honestly forgot. I even forgot Justin Worley existed.
Yeah, a lot of people have, unfortunately. I mean, he was not one of the better remembered quarterbacks here. I wouldn't think that was a rough team that year in 2013. Just a season that it was really brutal the whole way through. Just looking at that schedule, because you had some games like Auburn at the end of that year. Auburn was 3-9 the previous year. Nobody thought Auburn was going to be that good that season. Sure enough, they go to the national championship.
Yeah.
So, but I would say my number 5 has got to be Alabama this year. Probably because it was just validation that Tennessee, can be as good and compete at the same level as Alabama can. And I don't know if part of that is just Nick Saban hanging it up, but the best way I had to describe that game is kind of a beautiful mess, because it was a very messy football game. Very, very messy football game, but Tennessee got the job done. And usually it takes your best game and then some to beat Alabama. Not this time around.
So
Not this time around.
What was your thoughts about rushing the field a second time? Because I had mixed thoughts on it.
I did not partake in it because, well, I thought about it for a second, but I was just like, it's just not as it doesn't feel as good as the one that they had previously.
It doesn't feel something like a top 10 program should do.
No,
is the way that I felt about it.
No.
Because the only time, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only time Tennessee rushed the field before the Alabama game is when they beat Florida in like, it was either 98 or 2003, I think. Which both of those games, very valid reasons to rush the field.
Yeah,
I felt like Tennessee,
Florida
Alabama,
98, I know happened.
It was 98. Okay.
Yeah.
So like Tennessee had 2 field rushing instances before that, and I just didn't feel like that was justified for a third.
Yeah. All right, number 4. We have got 2015 Georgia sitting at number 4. The greatest punt I have ever seen was in that game. Trevor Daniel pins Georgia back at the half-yard line with just a matter of seconds to go. Game also probably saved Butch Jones's job because that season was not going particularly well. A lot of close losses at that time, but it's a good win for Tennessee, and started what was a great back half of that season. That was also Mark Richt's last year at Georgia, I believe. And one of a couple of Tennessee games that I've been to where it just did not start well, but ended very nicely.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that game much.
Really?
Yeah, not really, to be honest.
That was the game where Nick Chubb blew out his ACL on like the first play.
Just kidding. I do remember a little bit of that now. I still have that image in my head. Like this exact image, I could Google search right now. I have it in my head from his injury. Gruesome.
Yeah. It's up there probably. Well, I guess the Florida game this year, there were 2 really gruesome injuries. So I don't know if my gruesome injury power rankings, if they're up more because of those 2. But before that, it was only Nick Chubb and the Jalen Waddle blown out ankle on the opening kickoff in 2020 that I had seen that were just really gruesome.
You didn't see the Marshawn Lattimore injury?
Marcus Lattimore was that game was at South Carolina.
Yeah, I remember watching that on TV, and I was actually a fan of him. I used to play with him in NCAA all the time, and I was like, I had mixed feelings because it hurt seeing his career just end right there. But then also it's like, I don't know, maybe had better chance of winning the game now. But I thought it's cool what the both sidelines did, like because Tennessee's whole sideline left when he was getting carted off the field, which I thought was a good sign of respect.
Yeah. So we do have a pretty big shakeup in my rankings, which I will go over here in just a second. Because we have like a big tie for ninth now. But moving on, and this next one is actually pretty high up in the rankings that I've accumulated over the course of the day, and that is 2016 Florida. The other game that Tennessee came from behind, way behind, and won 21-3 deficit, scored 35 consecutive points, ends up with the 10-point win. That was because Tennessee did that a lot that year, and that was a streak breaker too. So obviously, streak breakers are worth celebrating. This was a 12-year drought that Tennessee was on at the time. I mentioned the duck pulling a truck earlier. That's where that comes from. This game with Tease Tabor and Juwan Jennings, just the surge in that second half was something unlike I've ever seen before from a team. Not even that Alabama game you mentioned in 2023 was that bad.
And Juwan Jennings was a dog that game, man. Like that was around the time when he was really starting to step up and win games for Tennessee. And that was a big game for me too, because that was I'm guessing it's the same for you. The first time you ever saw Tennessee beat Florida. So that was
it, but yes.
Yeah. I mean, because like we were alive when Tennessee won, like back when like James Wilhoit was our kicker, but of course we can't remember that. We're still learning to talk.
Yeah. Number 2, Florida in 2022. Undoubtedly. Because I was in school when it happened. And that was a game where you had to overcome the normal Florida nonsense, where you had Anthony Richardson throwing for 450 yards in that game. The guy stunk all season outside of that game. That's not an exaggeration. He was seriously one of the most overrated quarterback prospects I've ever seen in college football, yet he goes off in that game. Just inexplicable stuff like that happening. And there was definitely a feeling of panic in the air when that Florida player is just running unimpeded with that onside kick toward the end zone late in the game. And they're throwing to the end zone with a chance to win. They were down, 11 points with under 2 minutes to go?
Yeah.
Tennessee had a chance to put that game away.
And here's the thing. I accidentally fell asleep watching that game, and my brother woke.
No.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, I fell asleep while we were like comfortably winning. Then my brother woke me up, and I'm like, what's going on? I woke up in a panic. He's like, Tennessee might lose this game. I was like, you should have let me sleep. I'm like, what are you doing? But thankfully, Tennessee ended up getting the victory. But it was scary there. It was scary there for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that. Well, I can't imagine. I know it was scary.
Yeah.
Falling asleep, that sounds very terrifying. It was scary in person, but falling asleep, I mean, that's literally emerging from a nightmare. Or no, emerging from a great dream into a nightmare. That's
I wish it was a nightmare. I mean, if we would have lost, yeah, I would have wished that was a nightmare for sure.
All right, and then finally, number 1. This is easy. You all know what this is. Tennessee and Alabama in 2022. Streak breaker. I'm in school for it. And honestly, one of the greatest college football games in Tennessee football history. It doesn't matter what generation of a Vol fan you are. Because again, like I hadn't seen very many great ones, but even those who have seen really great ones over the years will admit that this one is right up there with the very best of them.
Yeah. I mean, this was a pivotal moment for Tennessee fans and Tennessee as a program as a general. Like you mentioned earlier with the Alabama game this season, proving that Tennessee could beat Alabama. Well, this was like a huge boost of confidence for Tennessee that year with especially beating Nick Saban too, like getting the first victory over Nick Saban, breaking the streak and everything. It proved that Tennessee could be with the top dogs, that they were just going through some stuff during the time. But yeah, I mean, I feel like most Vols fans, definitely one of the best games of at least like the past